Welcome to the Unity Rally. Each day, we awake to a new headline or news story. In some cases, these are stories coming from our own loved ones and our own communities. Now more than ever, we need to come together to strengthen our Black and Latino communities and to join forces with the true allies who know that we are greater together than we are apart. I want to thank Senator Royce West personally. Your efforts, my friend, to help your constituents are appreciated and needed more now today than ever. And a big thank you to the NAACP and also to the Houston Area Urban League, LULAC, and to every one of you who have joined us here today. On this day, on the anniversary of the Civil Rights Act, we celebrate the progress we've made, but now is not the time for us to be sitting on our hands. It is the time to devise an actionable plan to move Blacks and Latino people forward and all people forward and not backwards. How do we normalize Black and Latino people participating in the economics of America? How do we let the Fortune 1000 companies and local developers know that, yes, there are in fact qualified Black and Latino people who are ready and willing to take a seat at the table? Through every portion of the pipeline, people of color are available and ready to make a positive impact on the United States and also on the world. As we look forward, we have to honor those we've lost. Most recently, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Rayshard Brooks, and those mothers and fathers and families who grieve their loved ones every day who did not make the national news. We honor those who fought so hard for each and every one of us to have the simple right just to vote. Not only that, the right to be. Those who created pathways for you and me to be here in this conversation today. As you listen, I personally challenge each and every one of us to ask ourselves, what more can we do? What more can I do? We are committed. I'm committed to ensuring that Black people and other minorities have a place at the economic table of America. The CEOs of Fortune 1000 and 500 companies can know this. Yes, there are professional partnerships to be created that will benefit communities, families, and create legacies that we all can be proud of. We are committed to creating better. We're committed to doing better for Blacks and Latino people and for all people. We've heard a lot of talk lately, and we've seen a lot of action. But what will you do? What can you do? Together, we are more powerful than we think. And we can show that power by registering to vote. We can hire qualified Black and Latino professionals who have been sidelined because someone thought that they did not have what it takes, based simply on the color of their skin. Search out and seek out Black contractors, creators, developers, financial institutions, architects, writers, designers. Find those people and bring them to your table, because together we will create something lasting. Something our ancestors will celebrate for generations. Now sit back and enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you and be blessed.
Thank you so much, Emmitt, for all of your support. I'm Jazze Maxie, the Community Affairs Director and Entreprenuer for Radio 1 Dallas, and I am humbly honored to host this event tonight. You will hear from a lineup of high-profile supporters who will focus on key issues, including racism, legislating, and voting. Senator West is our first guest. He has served as a member of the Texas State Senate for 27 years. He says, it has been over 50 years since the signing of the Civil Rights Act. And as we commemorate the anniversary of that historic day, we are reminded once again that the blind eye of denial, indifference, and maybe complicity appears stronger than ever. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Royce West.
I'm State Senator Royce West. I want to applaud the NAACP, LULAC, and the Urban League for coming together for this virtual rally against racism. Before the passage of the Civil Rights Act, Dr. King talked about the difference between white immigrants and black Americans and the history of division and disenfranchisement. Said Dr. King, white America must see that no other ethnic group has been a slave on American soil. That is one of the things that other immigrant groups hadn't had to face. The other thing is that color became a stigma. Americans freed the slaves in 1863 through the Emancipation Proclamation, but gave the slaves no land or nothing in reality to get started on. At the same time, America was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and Midwest, which meant that there was a willingness to give to the white peasants from Europe an economic base. And yet it refused to give its black peasants from Africa, who came involuntarily, in chains, and had to work free for 244 years, any kind of economic base. So emancipation for the Negro was really freedom to hunger. It was freedom to the winds and rains of heaven. It was freedom without food to eat, a land to cultivate, and therefore it was freedom and famine at the same time. When white America tell the Negro to lift himself by his own bootstraps, they look over the legacy of slavery and segregation. And I believe we ought to do all we can and seek to lift ourselves by our own bootstraps. It's a cruel jest to say that the bootless man, that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And many Negroes by the thousands and millions have been left bootless as a result of all of these years of oppression and as a result of a society that deliberately made his color a stigma and something worthless and degrading. My friends, a recent political article titled Black Lives Matter pointed to polls that now reflect a seismic shift in attitudes. 76% of the public says racism and discrimination is a major problem. 72% of white people agree the Black Lives Matter movement now has major support. The expected revolt of white suburbanites against the protest isn't materialized. Instead, they've joined this particular movement. This is no longer a traditional wedge issue because all of a sudden white America, particularly college-educated white Americans, understand that racism is real. NAACP, LULAC, Urban League, and other organizations, the time is now to seize the moment and make the words of the Civil Rights Act a reality for Black America. We must do it with our vote. In each and every election, we must make certain that elections matter. We must make certain also that we join the census and get everyone in our community to fill out the census. If we're going to make the American dream real, we must do it together.
Thank you so much, Senator West. And if you didn't know, early voting has started, and don't be surprised if you see him on the ballot. Our next guest is Domingo Garcia. He has been a successful trial lawyer for 30 years. He is also the national president of LULAC and a strong advocate for immigrant rights. He believes this is the time for Blacks and Latinos to stand together and build upon the principles of the Civil Rights Act. Ladies and gentlemen, Domingo Garcia.
Hello, I'm Domingo Garcia, and I'm the national president of LULAC. Since 1929, LULAC has been fighting for civil rights of all citizens, but primarily Latinos here in the United States of America. When we started in 1929, there were segregated schools, segregated fountains, signs that said no Negroes, no Mexicans, no dogs allowed, all over the Southwest. We understand racism, we understand the battle for civil rights. When we were founded, we tried to fight in segregated schools. Many people may understand that there were segregated schools in the South for whites and blacks, but in the South and Southwest, Mexican Americans were also included with the African American community. And in fact, in a case in California in 1959, Mendez versus Westminster, A 9-year-old girl named Ana Mendez wanted to go to the white school to get a better education. She was denied that opportunity. The LULAC filed suit. That case went to the U.S. Supreme Court, and we won. And segregated schools for Mexican Americans was ended in 1959. And about several months later, in Brown versus Topeka, segregated schools were ended for African Americans. So we were proud to be trailblazers, even though people may not know that story. The same thing happened when we're dealing with voter suppression. We understand about racism and voter suppression. We knew about all white primaries here in Texas. We knew about poll taxes and literacy tests in Texas and in California and in Arizona and in Colorado. And we fought those battles, and we've been able to win them. Moving forward here, just 2019, LULAC filed suit against the state of Texas when they tried to purge 95,000 Mexican American names from the voter rolls. But for the battle that we did, those people would have been purged and denied the right to vote in 2019. In Dodge City, Kansas, the Secretary of State moved the only polling location out of Dodge City, 20 miles outside of town, 1 week before the date of the elections. Why? Dodge City is now 63% Mexican American Latino. And it took an 18-year-old kid, high school graduate, to be brave enough to be the plaintiff and file the lawsuit. And he didn't have to get out of Dodge to go vote. And LULAC was proud to do that. As we celebrate the Civil Rights Act, LULAC is proud that we included Spanish-speaking minorities as part of the Civil Rights Act with LBJ. And we continue to fight today because the struggle of African Americans, the Latinos, is the same. I've been stopped for driving while brown. I've been harassed by police officers. So have my 2 sons. So I know the battles continue. But at the end of the day, social justice for all of us is something that we continue to fight for. And LULAC, NAACP, Urban League, as well as all our other allies, are committed to make sure that we put teeth back in the civil rights movement and that we make the American dream of liberty and justice for all, ALL, para todos, a reality. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Domingo Garcia, and all the work that you are doing for civil rights. At this time, I'd like to welcome Reverend Reggie Butler. He is the senior pastor of St. Luke Community United Church, and he's going to offer a prayer.
Let us pray. Gracious God, we come to you right now, and we pause to acknowledge your sovereignty, that you are God. And in this moment of uncertainty, in this moment where we are wrestling with 2 pandemics, 2 viruses, the virus of COVID-19 and the virus of racism, we need wisdom. We need your spirit to breathe on us so that we individually and collectively can respond to this moment in love, respond to this moment with hope, respond to this moment in faith, respond to this moment with the possibilities of who we can be and not get stuck on who we are. And we pray that every individual in this community will recognize their responsibility and get out and do their job and simply go vote. And we pray for every effort that is seeking to suppress. We ask right now that those will be thwarted and that all citizens will have a chance to play their role in this experiment we call democracy. And we pray for leaders like Senator Royce West, who seek to lead and not follow. And we pray that you will bless him, that you will strengthen him, you will give him wisdom and knowledge, and that you will reaffirm in him why he's doing this, so that he has a heart for you and a heart for the people. And I pray right now that when our children, our grandchildren look back on this moment in time, they will be able to say that we were not silent and that we were not idle, but that we took on our responsibility to be the feet, hands, eyes, and ears of yours, and to see change and transformation come So we thank you and we praise you. And it's in the name of the one who forever changed my life, I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Reverend Richie Butler. Oh my goodness, what a powerful prayer. Thank you so much for that. That's exactly what we need right now. Our next guest is Lola Wilson. She is a professional vocalist, will sing the Negro National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. And she can sing too.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with a harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun, of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
What a beautiful song. Thank you so much, Lola, for that. I believe all the kids should learn that song growing up. Also at this time, I would love to invite you guys to visit unityrally.us to make a donation that will benefit LULAC, the NAACP, and the Urban League of Houston. At this time, I'd like to introduce our next guest, which is Eric Johnson, the mayor of the city of Dallas. He's been on the job only a year, but he is leading his city through some of the most pressing issues ever, a pandemic and racial unrest. Ladies and gentlemen, Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson.
Hello, I'm Eric Johnson, Mayor of Dallas. I want to thank the NAACP, the Houston Area Urban League, and LULAC for hosting the virtual unity rally against racism. The significance of this day is obvious. It's the 56th anniversary of the signing of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It's also the same date that the Continental Congress approved a resolution that declared independence from Great Britain. The declaration of which included a proclamation that we are all created equal and that we have God-given right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I was born in 1975. I have known racism in my life, but I'm grateful that I and my two sons will never have lived in a world without the civil rights laws of the 1960s. But my parents did, and their parents did too. We're still not far from a world where injustice and oppression were the official policies of our country. We all know we still have work to do today. The brutal and needless death of George Floyd and others have laid bare the systemic injustices that have continued to be pervasive in this country. Those 8 minutes and 46 seconds exposed a wound 400 years in the making. Deaths like George Floyd's have called our attention to the tree of systemic racial injustice, with its roots in slavery and its many branches that include police misconduct and economic and social inequity. Now is the time to act. I am proud to be the mayor of Dallas, a diverse, strong, and resilient city. We have made progress, but I know that we are not perfect. Like all cities in this country, we have divisions, injustices, and inequities among us. I grew up in underserved communities in this city, and I know this struggle well. And I also know from a decade in the Texas legislature how the fight to rectify injustices can be an uphill battle. But the protests give me hope. Our city has great people who have proven time and again that we are capable of healing and working together. We haven't always lived up to our highest ideals, but we must continue to strive to achieve them. We can't do it alone, and we can't produce meaningful change in an echo chamber. We need more participation in democracy, not less. We need more voices, not fewer. Please register to vote. This rally is about more than one event or day of significance on a calendar. It's about our future. You can help turn protests into policy by continuing to tell us how we can make the world better for all of our communities. Thank you. Keep up the fight, and may God bless the great city of Dallas and the United States of America.
Thank you so much, Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson. And as a resident of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I appreciate him for speaking out about civil rights and how important it is. Our next guest is the Honorable Bernice Johnson. Oh, she goes to work for the Texans, and we're depending on her, including myself. She's been in public service for so many years, first in the Texas House of Representatives, and then as a U.S. Congresswoman, a position that she's held for over 25 years. And that is what I call Black girl magic. At this moment, I'd like to introduce the Honorable Bernice Johnson.
Hello, I'm Congresswoman Bernice Johnson. I represent the 30th District of Texas, which is Dallas-based, Dallas County. And I really want to talk a little bit about how important it is that you vote this year. The only way and the quickest way that we can change how the nation deals with future pandemics, law enforcement reform, and racial inequality is to vote. We can't let our protest for justice be in vain. We must make our voices heard in November. We can march all we want to. We can scream all we want to. But until we vote and get some of the people in office that we know understand what needs to be done, we're really wasting our energies. Amid this pandemic and the fight for racial equality, the 2020 census is still ongoing. And the way we can get who can represent us is to have everybody counted, because following that count, lines are changed. And it makes all the difference in the world what opportunities that people that stand up for you will get elected. So it's very important to make sure that you are counted on the 2020 census. Yes, gerrymandering can happen, but the more people we have elected to office, the less intense that can be. Representation makes all the difference in the world when it comes to dealing with the policies as relates to schoolrooms, hospitals, infrastructure, small businesses in the community. It has to do with everything that has to do with our well-being. So I want you to remember that the greatest power you have is to vote. If you do not vote, you're giving away your right. You're giving away a right that bloodshed took place to make sure that we have. I cannot stress enough how important it is for you to vote this year and be counted so that next year we'll have fairer districts, because if we are counted, they got to make a place for our representation. I want to thank you for lifting your voices and helping in a movement, but keep in mind, no matter how many times we march, no matter how much voices we raise, the greatest voice of all is to vote.
Thank you so much, Eddie Bernice Johnson. If you're watching this video right now, please use the hashtag #UnityRally and share this video with your friends and family. Our next guest is U.S. Representative Joaquin Castro. He has worked hard to seize opportunities created and by the sacrifices of his grandmother and prior generations. He has served 5 terms as a state representative for District 125. Today, he is a member of the U.S. House of Representatives and a fierce advocate of civil rights. Ladies and gentlemen, Congressman Joaquin Castro.
Hi, I'm Joaquin Castro, chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus and congressman from Texas. Thank you to the NAACP, to LULAC, and the Urban League for inviting me to be here with you to rally against racism and to stand up to the systemic racism that has afflicted Black people, brown people, and other people of color in this country for so long. You know, our country was founded upon certain principles, including equality and justice for all, but it's been a very slow march in getting there. So many people have fought over the years for the rights of women, for civil rights, to make sure, again, that everybody has opportunity in this country, that everybody can seek and find justice, that folks are not targeted in their own neighborhoods. But we still have a long way to go to make sure that all of those things are true. And one of the recent issues that we've been dealing with, as you all know, is justice in policing, making sure that law enforcement are treating people of color respectfully and as they should. And I'm proud that the House of Representatives recently passed the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. It's a significant piece of legislation, but it's also just the first step in overhauling our law enforcement system to make sure that bad officers don't prey upon people of color, usually in inner city neighborhoods, vulnerable people, that folks who are in those neighborhoods are respected by law enforcement. I say that as somebody that grew up on the west side of San Antonio, a neighborhood that is both in many parts impoverished and also about 90 or 95% Mexican American. Where growing up there, I sensed a hostility from law enforcement, a judgment about the quality of the people who lived in those neighborhoods, in my neighborhoods, just because of their income and just because of the part of town that they lived in. And so I wanted to be here today to tell you that this is just one significant step that we've taken, an important step, but we have a long way to go to make sure that we root out systemic racism, not just in policing, but in many aspects of American society. African Americans, Latinos, Native Americans are woefully underrepresented in so many areas of American society and industries, in business, in law, in financial services, in medicine and healthcare, in so many places, in media and stereotyped in media. So we have a long way to go to make sure that we root out systemic racism. And please know that I'm with you, that the Congressional Hispanic Caucus is with you, and we will fight with you and alongside with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Joaquin Castro. At this time, I'd like to introduce our next guest, which is Gary Bledsoe. He is the president of the Texas NAACP. He says, in today's climate, our focus on voting and voter suppression is because Black voters can and do change lives. Ladies and gentlemen, Gary Bledsoe, president of the Texas NAACP, speaks out on civil rights movement and where we are now.
Hello, my name is Gary Bledsoe with the Texas NAACP. Welcome to the virtual rally against racism, jointly sponsored by the NAACP of Texas, the League of United Latin American Citizens, and the National Urban League of Houston. We have joined together for what we think is a watershed moment in our nation. As President Johnson said in 1965, before the passage of the Voting Rights Act, we had reached a watershed moment with Selma at that time. And as we see today with the murder of George Floyd, we've reached a watershed moment where people of all persuasions in this nation have decided that enough is enough and racism must go. However, my friends, we know that the marches will stop. We know that things will move forward tomorrow. So we must be prepared. As Martin Luther King would say, where do we go from here? My friends, we have a plan that we're going to produce to the nation tomorrow for Texas. It will be a comprehensive plan to deal with this issue of racism. that will empower our communities to come together and address the issues in the manner that they need to be addressed. Many years ago, our long-term secretary with the state NAACP, Myrtle Captain, mentioned to me that there are many more good people in this nation than there are bad people. But the good people stand by and let the bad ones do their dirty work. However, my friends, if you come and join with us and create the kind of dialogue in our communities and work with your local NAACP, your local LULAC, and your local Urban League, we can truly make a difference for the people of this state and eliminate racism once and forever. Join the NAACP to make a difference, and thank you for being part of this illustrious event that we think can be an event that will help change the nation, the state, and the world.
Thank you so much, Gary Bledsoe, the president of the Texas NAACP. Please don't forget to visit us at unityrally.us and make a donation that will benefit the LULAC, the NAACP, and the Urban League of Houston so they can continue their fight for civil rights. Our next guest is Judson Robinson III. He is the president of the Houston Area Urban League, which was founded during the Civil Rights Movement. The leaders realized then that education, employment, and training were essential to the economic survival of African American families. Today, Mr. Robinson says, we are a modern society with old problems, but we can work them out. Ladies and gentlemen, Judson Robinson III, president of the Houston Area Urban League.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us during this important time in our history. My thanks to all who helped organize this historic event, lending their time, energy, and standing in the community to ensure we are all heard and this momentum of this historic movement is continued. We are at a time in America where the untimely deaths of Black people at the hands of racist policing has torn away the scab of injustice that permeates not only in law enforcement, but in almost every segment of our daily reality as people of color. We at the Houston Area Urban League, one of the 90 affiliates of the National Urban League, are encouraged by your energy as we recognize collectively that enough is enough. We support and participate in the peaceful protests. We carry your concerns of justice to the public policy arena, from City Hall to the halls of Congress, amplifying your cries for justice, equity, and equality to the powers that be. For more than 50 years locally and over 110 nationally, the Urban League has been there to fight for job creation, housing opportunities, educational access, health advocacy, and civil rights and justice. The disparities, they remain. Yet we must continue to fight. We must continue bringing awareness to the problems, recommending solutions for consideration, and demanding their adoption for those in search of opportunity and fairness. With your support and help, we can continue this fight with a new and robust pace to create justice in an unjust environment. Together, we can continue this movement and message that Black lives matter. We say the names of our fallen loved ones that have brought this discussion to the forefront. We fight so that their names live on and the names of the countless others live on in our spirit and in our activism. With your help, we can do this together. We must never again return to the status quo. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Judson Robinson III. At this time, our next guest is George Lopez. He is one of America's beloved comedians, and he has been a stand-up comic for over 41 years. His routines have always examined race and ethnic relations. Today, he says he sees life a little clearer since he has been sheltering in place during the pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, the legendary George Lopez.
What's going on? I'm George Lopez. What's important to me about this virtual rally is that this issue of the streets not being safe for people of color is that I had a friend of mine that I had known from kindergarten, preschool, law-abiding, all of us were. Used to walk to school every day, used to wait for each other to walk home, play baseball. played baseball in high school, and one of us played football. His name was Kenny Ramirez, San Fernando, California. One night in 1980, he was working in Burbank at an airplane, company, and his brother decided to go purse snatch in Beverly Hills. They got a license plate number of the car, waited for him at his house. His brother picked him up from work. Kenny wasn't aware that his brother had done anything illegal. Took him home, police were waiting. My friend Kenny goes inside, comes out, police car comes by, no lights on, just dark. Police don't know that we have people across the street in the car who were gonna go and play pool like they did usually after work. And as Kenny gets closer to the street, one of the guys yells out, "Hey, Kenny, the police." So Kenny waits, car comes by, door opens, 2 officers in the car. Passenger opens the door, fires, hits him over his right eye, drops him, swarm of police officers. Completely innocent. His brother did something that was illegal, but it's not anything that required anybody losing their life over. So this continues to happen. And it happens to, our mothers and our fathers and our kids and just everybody. And it's time that this all ends. It's time for hold those people accountable. It's time for us to not be silent or just take it and move on. I'm friends with every one of those guys that I grew up with, and the only one that's not around is Kenny. So I will do everything that I can. I use my platform to speak the loudest and to make sure that, your kids and my kids and all of our family members are safe.
What a powerful, powerful story. And it's sad that so many people have to live through that. And all we want is justice. And so I really appreciate George Lopez for sharing that personal story with us. At this time, please, guys, don't forget to join us at unityrally.us to make a donation that will benefit LULAC, the NAACP, and the Urban League of Houston. And while you're there, please sign the petition so we can pass the Civil Rights Act. It is so important, and we need your help. Our next guest is Dr. Frederick Haynes. He is the senior pastor of Friendship West Baptist Church. He is a prophetic pastor, very passionate leader, social activist, and educator who is engaged in preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ, fighting against racial injustice, committed to economic justice and empowerment in underserved communities. Let's hear a word from Pastor Frederick Haynes.
The second Revolutionary War is called the Civil Rights Movement. A part of the Civil Rights Movement resulted in the passage of the 1964 Civil Rights Bill. That occurred on this day in 1964. How did it take place? It took place because of heroes and sheroes who united in a holy wedlock and gave birth to a movement for justice and freedom. And so right now we lift up and call the names of Ella Baker and Fannie Lou Hamer, Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks. We call the names of James Bevel and Fred Shuttlesworth. We call the names of Thurgood Marshall. We call the names of those who gave their all in order to birth, watch this, a new reality for America, where the American dream became a reality more and more for those of us whose skin have been kissed by nature's sun. And so as we commemorate and celebrate the anniversary of the passage of the Civil Rights Bill, don't forget that it was signed in blood. Don't forget those civil rights warriors, those justice soldiers who in many instances are unnamed and unknown, and yet they stood against fire hoses. They took being bitten by Bull Connor's dogs. They marched and they marched and they marched because of their commitment to a cause that was greater than themselves. And so that was because here it is, the second Revolutionary War fought here in the United States of America, or these yet to be United States of America, to use the language of the late great Maya Angelou. And here we are right now in a season that may well be called either the third Revolutionary War. Why? Because America has seen too many of our black brothers and sisters slain senselessly and tragically. And yet, if we are to be heirs to a legacy of justice and liberty for all, then what we must do is not just call the names of Fannie Lou and Martin Luther King. We must not just be content to call the names of Diane Nash and James Bevel and Stokely Carmichael and James Meredith and countless others, but we must now add our names to that list. And when we add our names to that list, here's what can happen. We can be used by the God who created us to transform tragic murders into a transformational movement. Is that not what has always happened? A tragic murder gave birth to a transformational movement. So the tragic murders of Breonna Taylor, the tragic murders of Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd, the tragic murders of Botham Jean right here in Dallas, they don't have to simply be tragic, but they can become transformational. A tragic murder, a transformational movement. How did we get the 64 Civil Rights Bill? We got that 64 Civil Rights Bill. Why? Because of the fact that a tragic murder led to a transformational movement. Only the year before, 1963, did we experience the tragic murder of one who found himself, Medgar Evers, registering people to vote, but he's slain in his own driveway. Not only did that take place in 1963, but 4 little girls went to Sunday school and they lost their lives as a bomb exploded. That happened in 1963. Tragic murders. But not only that, John Kennedy right here in Dallas was assassinated, and then a Texan by the name of LBJ said, I'm going to continue that legacy and we're going to pass civil rights legislation, because a tragic murder became a transformational movement. And so we've had tragic murders, too many to call right now. If we are to be true to our legacy and this become a third Revolutionary War, then here is what we must declare: that those tragic murders, their blood must not be shed in vain, but instead let us all gather together and use this as a transformational movement where we transform America from what she has been that should not have been into what she should be that was originally imagined. I guess I've got to quote one who was a part of that movement, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel. For you know what Rabbi Heschel said as he marched with Martin Luther King Jr. He marched for justice and freedom. And this was his quote that is so profound, that speaks to us right now. All of us may not be guilty, but all of us are responsible. Preach, Rabbi Heschel. He is saying that all of us have a responsibility to take those tragic murders and commit to making a transformational movement. We ain't all guilty. We're not saying that, but we are all responsible. And when we all assume the mantle of responsibility, then that Civil Rights Act that was written in blood becomes something of a transformational model for what we can do in this moment. I guess I'll wrap it like this, because that also had everything to do, the passage of the 64 Civil Rights Bill and the unity that was forged against the racism expressed in Jim and Jane Crow segregation, when a preacher from Atlanta, Georgia, a dreamer against the backdrop of the American nightmare, stood on August 28th, 1963, and he declared, I have a dream today. Don't forget the backdrop of the nightmare, because before he got to the poetry of the dream, he dealt with the prose of the American nightmare. And And so this is a nightmarish kind of season because we got two pandemics we're fighting. There's pandemic COVID-19 and COVID-16-19. But we can, like that dreamer, declare in spite of this nightmare that we are going to reimagine what our nation and world can look like. Will you reimagine it with me? I'm imagining a nation where justice rolls down as waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. I'm imagining a nation where we all participate in the political process without our votes being suppressed or our voting process being hacked. And as a consequence, we elect public servants who do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with our God. I'm imagining a nation where every community is a community of opportunity that births American possibilities. Are you imagining with me? I'm imagining a nation that is truly one under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all. Yes, it was 1964 when the Civil Rights Bill was passed, but when it was written, it was signed in blood, and it was signed in blood, reminding us even today that here it is, tragic murders can become a transformational movement. And we also are reminded that all of us may not be guilty, but all of us are responsible. What are we responsible for? Reimagining what we ought to look like in spite of the nightmare of how things may be. God bless you. And remember now, the wisdom of Mary McLeod Bethune. With one finger, I may get your attention. With two, I don't know. But if I bring the fingers together and form a fist, I can strike a blow for freedom and justice. Let's bring our fingers together and strike that blow. Peace.
Yes, Pastor Haynes, I am fired up and ready to go after that message right there. I hope you are voting. Early voting has already kicked off. And I do want to reiterate to please visit us at unityrally.us. As misspoke earlier, if you could go on there and please sign the petition so we can reinforce the Civil Rights Act and just let them know Black Lives Matter. And while you're there, join the organizations, join LULAC, join the NAACP or the Urban League, and make an Urban League of Houston. Please make a donation and go to the website. Again, it's unityrally.us. Next, I want to take a moment to look at two archived footage from the LBJ Foundation discussing the Civil Rights Act from President Lyndon B. Johnson and President Barack Obama.
My fellow Americans, I am about to sign into law the Civil Rights Act of 1964. I want to take this occasion to talk to you about what that law means to every American. My fellow citizens, we have come now to a time of testing. We must not fail. Let us close the springs of racial poison. Let us pray for wise and understanding hearts. Let us lay aside irrelevant differences and make our nation whole. Let us hasten that day when our unmeasured strength and our unbounded spirit will be free to do the great works ordained for this nation by the just and wise God, who is the Father of us all. Thank you and good night.
because of the civil rights movement, because of the laws President Johnson signed. New doors of opportunity and education swung open for everybody. Not all at once, but they swung open. Not just blacks and whites, but also women and Latinos and Asians and Native Americans and gay Americans and Americans with a disability. They swung open for you, and they swung open for me. And that's why I'm standing here today, because of those efforts, because of that legacy.
My forever president. Thank you so much to the Lyndon B. Johnson Foundation for providing that footage for us. Our next guest is the U.S. Representative Karen Bass. She's from California, is serving her 5th term representing the 37th Congressional District. In addition to her work on the House Committee on Foreign Affairs and House Judiciary Committee, as chairwoman of the Congressional Black Caucus, her members are involved in numerous issues affecting the African American community, including police reform, protecting and expanding voting rights, criminal justice reform, ensuring affordable health care, and investing in education. We are honored to introduce the Honorable Karen Bass.
Hello, everyone. I am glad to join you, even if it is virtually, on this historic anniversary of the Civil Rights Act. It is amazing in 2020 that we're still fighting on some of the same issues, but I am excited that our fight is energized now by this movement that has developed in 50 states around the country and several countries around the world. We're focusing on policing and systemic racism, and we know that policing is just one of the manifestations of systemic racism. We know that it impacts all of our people, African American, Latinx, Asian Pacific Islander, and Native Americans. We all have the fight against institutional racism in common, whether we are talking about DACA, whether we are talking about the underlying health conditions that have led to each of our communities having a disproportionate death rate from COVID-19. Well, this is the year for change. 2020, in little over 100 days, will be, all the time we say the most important election in our lifetime. This election is about life and death. Life and death because over 127,000 Americans have died from COVID, and we know a huge percentage are our people. It's life and death because of the judges that are being appointed to courts, and Lord knows what they think of the Civil Rights Act. And it's also an important year because it's the year of the census. I join you on this historic day in saying that for the next 100+ days, we are going to recommit to activism. We're going to make sure that all of our people vote, no matter what efforts they use to suppress our vote, until we bring this across the finish line and we frankly end the nightmare of the last 3.5 years. Thank you, good luck, and maybe in the future we will meet in person.
Thank you so much, U.S. Representative Karen Bass. Our next guest is Michelle Carter. She is a world-class athlete and my girl. In 2016, she was the first African-American woman to win a gold medal in shot put in the Rio Olympic Games. She was introduced into the Texas Track and Field Hall of Fame in 2018. Despite the postponement of the 2020 Olympics, Ms. Carter continues to train in the 2021 Olympics and work in her community. Ladies and gentlemen, gold medalist Michelle Carter.
Hi, my name is Michelle Carter, 3-time Olympian and 2016 Olympic gold medalist for Team USA. And I am the first American woman to win a gold medal at the Olympics for Team USA. I represent America when I'm on the Olympic team. I happen to be a Black American, but I represent all of America. I don't represent just Black Americans, I represent all of Americans. So for me, fighting for unity is very important because I'm on a team. Matter of fact, I'm on the greatest team in the whole wide world, Team USA. And in this moment, no matter where we come from, no matter what color we are, no matter what event we are, we come together to cheer for each other in this moment, for us to be our very best, to shine on the stage, and to represent our country. But outside of the Olympics, I'm quickly reminded that I'm different than the other Americans. That there's something about me that almost sometimes make me less than my other American teammates. And that's my skin color. I've been on talk shows where people see my credentials and they automatically assume that I'm the first African American to do it. And I have to remind them, like, no, I'm the first American to ever have done this before. But it'll be a win when people could look at anybody in America who says that they're American and they can just be that, an American. So that's why it's very important for us to celebrate the anniversary of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. My great-grandmother is 101 years old. I can only imagine the things that she's seen, the things that she's fought through to even just be alive today. I can't even imagine. But because of her and her strength and her pride and her surviving, I am here today. I do not take lightly what my ancestors have fought for. And that's why it's important for us to exercise our right to vote. It's important to use our voices because we are powerful, we are smart, we are creative, we are so beautiful and so strong. And it's time for us to unite together and make sure that we are being our very best to go out there and push the Civil Rights Act even further than it is today. Because when we win, we all win. And that's what unity is about. Not just fighting for yourself, but fighting for those who are behind you and also those who had came before you, taking their work and pushing it further. So you being here today, watching this program, I thank you because you're ready to take the next steps to help keep pushing us forward so that we can be our very best and that America can be the great America we want it to be. But it takes you, it takes me, it takes all of us together so that we can be great together.
Thank you so much, Michelle Carter. And I cannot wait to cheer for you at the Olympics in 2021. If you're watching this program, please use the hashtag Unity Rally and share with your friends and family. Also, visit the website at unityrally.us and sign the petition so we can reinforce the Civil Rights Act and let them know that we care about Black lives. You can also join LULAC, the NAACP, and the Urban League of Houston. Join these organizations and together we can help end systematic racism. Our next guest is Nelly Galan. She is an independent producer and former president of Entertainment for Telemundo. In addition to her work, she takes the lead in issues affecting our communities. Ladies and gentlemen, Nelly Galan.
I'm Nelly Galan. As a Latina, I want to say to all my African American brothers and sisters, thank you for your service. Thank you for your voice. Thank you for standing up when so many of us have had a hard time speaking up. Thank you for speaking for all of us that cannot speak for ourselves. As a Latina that came here when I was 5 years old, from a country where there was no freedom of speech, where the human rights violations were rampant, where my parents had to leave from one day to the next and come here with the shirts off our back. I understand that we arrived here and have been able to live with the privilege of so many freedoms that all of you have fought for generations and generations. And yet I was told, like so many other minorities in this country, I was told, don't speak up by my parents. Sweep everything under the rug. Listen to authority. Don't speak to power. Because in our countries of origin, when we spoke up, we would be called desaparecidos. We would disappear, or we would be political prisoners for life. And so when we came here, so many of us are just so grateful sometimes for crumbs that we don't speak up. But I hope that now, with everything that's happened that's undeniable, it's been undeniable to the world that there is injustice and racism in this country, that all of my multicultural brothers and sisters will be louder and braver and stand up for all the inequities that still exist in this country. And as someone who loves this country, I want it to change. And I'm hoping this moment in time will bring us the change that we all need and deserve. The inequities in corporate America, where these companies don't look like us, where we are the #1 customers in the country. We are the ones holding up the economy, and yet corporate America doesn't look like us. The C-suite doesn't look like us. The boards don't look like us. And in small businesses where Latina and African American women are the fastest growing entrepreneurs in America, we don't have the access to capital. We don't know how to get the money from the SBA. I have been tirelessly working to help multicultural women fill out the PPP and the EIDL forms. But yet we do not have those equities that everyone else has in this country. So I want this moment in time to help us all be louder and braver, to be working together, to look at how we can all buy from each other, how all of us can stand up for not just social inequities, but economic inequities. We all deserve to be more abundant. We need to wealth build. We are the only ones that can bring that money back to our communities and back to our families who so deserve to be equalized with everyone else in this country. In Spanish, we have a word that is very beautiful. It's adelante. And adelante means move it, move forward. And this is a moment for us to move forward together. Together, we are everything. Together, our buying power, our ability to fight, to be in these companies, in these boards, and to have the access to capital we need to be abundant and to wealth build for generations to come. It is there for the taking. So adelante to all of us. Together, we are everything.
Adelante. Thank you so much, Nelly, for that. That is so important. As a woman of color, I felt every single word that you just said. Our next guest is Dr. Marion.
I'm Dr. David Marion, the 41st Grand Basileus of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. On behalf of approximately 200,000 initiated men in 750 chapters and in 14 countries, we stand in solidarity with all Americans in commemorating the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964. This act, led by a coalition of political and social justice leaders, paved a road that, while still uneven, gave way to dramatic improvements in social and political inclusion at all levels of government. Particularly, I'm proud of the contributions of our Omega brothers, notably former NAACP President Roy Wilkins and the March on Washington organizer Bayard Rustin, who made it their life's work to ensure all Americans had the opportunity of the American dream. However, for all the improvements our parents and grandparents persevered and fought for, our labors are far from over. As we've witnessed in recent years, our brothers and sisters remain under attack from institutions that demean our humanity. We must demand complete congressional restoration of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 to ensure the sacrifices of generations of Black and brown Americans aren't eroded by racist policies and state laws that seek to restrict our voting accessibility and silence our vote. The men of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity recognize that real change starts at the ballot box, and we join you and all people of good conscience in this fight for free and equal access to vote.
Thank you so much, Dr. David Marion, for that. Make sure if you're watching this video, make sure you hashtag Unity Rally and make a donation at unityrally.us. And you can make your donation will support the LULAC, the NAACP, and the Urban League of Houston. Next, we have a video montage for the Community Rally video.
I want to ask you a question, and that is, what is in your life's blueprint?
Now, each of you is in the process of building the structure of your lives.
This is the most important and crucial period of your lives, for what you do now and what you decide now at this age may well determine which way your life shall go. You know, it's very unfortunate that in so many instances, our society has placed a stigma on the Negro's color. Number one in your life's blueprint should be a deep belief in your own dignity, your own worth, and your own somebodyness. Don't allow anybody to make you feel that you are nobody.
You see, the flag is drenched with our blood. Because you see, so many of our ancestors was killed because we have never accepted slavery.
What is it you wanted me to reconcile myself to? You always told me it takes time. It's taken my father's time, my mother's time, my uncle's time, my brother's and my sister's time, my nieces and my nephew's time. How much time do you want for your progress?
You know, all of the burning and bombing that was done to us and the houses, nobody never said too much about that, and nothing was done. But let something be burned, you know, by a black man, and then, my God, you know. So what the young people are saying now, give us a chance to be young men, respected as a man, as we know this country was built on the black backs of black people across this country. And if we don't have it, you ain't gonna have it either, because we gonna tear it up. That's what they saying.
Always feel that you count, always feel that you have worth, and always feel that your life has ultimate significance. Don't allow anybody to cause you to lose your self-respect to the point that you do not struggle for justice. However young you are, you have a responsibility to seek to make your nation a better nation in which to live. You have a responsibility to seek to make life better for everybody. And so you must be involved in the struggle for freedom and justice.
So powerful, so powerful. We thank you guys so much for watching. At this time, we'd like to give you guys a poem recited by Monet.
I know of the fight to stay soft, petals, all too familiar with the heat of flame. These contentious flowers have outbloomed blazes many times. Defending themselves from darkness instead of feeding on sunlight, I have grown thorns where only softness should be. So I've learned the miracle of this rebellious garden. coaxing blooms from a land she was never supposed to grow in. I was born with a bridge where my back should be. Taught it was my responsibility to get everyone else across. Told nothing of the ways that I could get free. Not allowed to bend, forbidden to break. What use would I be then? So the world poured concrete into my bones to make sure that I stayed strong, spine straight, to make sure that when I broke, it hurt. Yet still I grew here, wildflowering myself at the intersection of peace and wilderness, a black girl blooming herself into a bouquet of middle fingers. To be black and woman and tender is to be an oxymoron, an ostensible self-contradiction, a lesson in reclamation. It means learning to speak without a tongue. The rose who grew herself out of concrete ain't got shit on me.
Come through, Monet. Yes, I love that right there. We will now hear from our youth leaders who continue to take leadership roles in their communities. Shout out to the millennials. Please also visit us at unityrally.us to make a donation, and that's going to benefit all of these wonderful organizations like the LULAC, the NAACP, and the Urban League of Houston. Right now, the first youth that we are going to feature is Siobhan Steuben. She is a proud native of San Francisco, California. She is an alum of Baylor University, a member of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated, and currently the president of the Texas NAACP Youth and College Division. We welcome Siobhan Steuben.
UNITY, UNITY, we want unity. Thank you all for joining us for the virtual rally against racism, commemorating the 56th anniversary of the signing of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. I am Siobhan Steuben, and I proudly serve as the Texas NAACP Youth and College Division President. There is so much that has led us to this moment, from slavery to Jim Crow, discrimination to oppression, from Emmitt Till to Oscar Grant, Michael Brown, George Floyd, Tatiana Jefferson, Sandra Bland, Breonna Taylor, and so many more unseen and countless lives and instances that we did not hear about. I've heard that 2020 is the year of change, and I'm ready to see it happen. I'm ready to make it happen. You heard earlier that this country has made color a statement. This is my statement. My skin is not a threat. My 10-year-old brother is not a thug, and my 44-year-old father will not be the next hashtag. 157 years ago, the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. 2 years later, the last slaves were freed in Galveston, Texas, the day that we now celebrate as Juneteenth. I do not just want to celebrate that day. I want to live that day in reality. My favorite sign that I've seen during this dual pandemic is that racism is not a debate, and I cannot agree with that statement anymore. I want to live in a world, in a country where I do not have to fear that I or my loved ones may not make it to our destination safely. And no, I'm not just talking about police. I'm talking about the hatred and bigotry roaming through the streets that is portrayed against us just because of the color of our skin. Young people, the time is now. We are not the leaders of the future awaiting our turn. We are in our turn now. We need to be standing alongside our mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, uncles and aunts, grandmothers and grandfathers, fighting the fight that our ancestors began. This needs to be an intergenerational conversation if we want to bring about change, if we want to bring about that change together. Let's take our outrage and sadness and press this moment into a movement. Our fear and discouragement and anger, and turn it into impact. We need to make sure our communities are registered to vote in the upcoming elections. We need to not only make sure they're registered, but we need to make sure we turn out the vote. We need to make sure that our voices are being heard. And then we not only need to make sure that we are turning out the vote, that we cast a ballot in the upcoming election, but that also we fill out the census. We need to make sure that every single one of us is counted. It has been said that this is the most important election of our lifetime. So make sure that you make it so that the next lifetime is better than the one you're living now. Let us not settle for painted pavements with words saying that our lives matter, because enough is enough. And our policies need to reflect that our lives matter. It needs to reflect that we can live and just be. It is okay to celebrate progress like we are today, though we continue to condemn stagnation and press forward because there is more work to be done. As we say at the NAACP, when we fight, we win. Thank you all and enjoy the rest of the program.
Thank you so much, Siobhan Steuben. We are young, we are passionate, and we are ready for change. Our next young youth is Jenny Mendez. She is an international relations and global studies student at the University of Texas. She is also active in the League of United Latin American Citizens and is involved in planning events to inform Latinos about the rights in order to empower our communities. Ladies and gentlemen, Jenny Mendez.
My name is Jenny Mendez and I am the Youth District Director for LULAC. I am blessed to have been born with my brown hair and dark eyes, and I am proud to have been born and raised in Oak Cliff. However, I am displeased with the lack of unity between the Black and Latino community. I disagree with the notion that as Latinos, we don't get affected by this problem or that we don't have anything to do with this when this couldn't be further away from the truth. As a youth, we have to educate our friends and family members about the disparities that exist and how we get affected by it. There are many issues that intersect within our community. The underfunding of majority minority schools, the rate of incarceration of people of color, and how we deal with gentrification in our communities. We are more alike than we are different. In Texas alone, the Black and Latino community are 44.4% of the population. If we were to unite, we could create laws that can better serve our communities by better funding our schools, by decreasing police brutality, by ending school-to-prison pipeline, and by eliminating border suppression laws. The possibilities are endless. We share neighborhoods, we share schools, we share zip codes, we share experiences. Not only do we have to acknowledge our problems in our neighborhood, but we have to take action on it. We have the power to change the discourse of American politics by applying public pressure just like the Black Lives Matter movement has been doing so. I am asking young people, Black, brown, white, of every color, to fight for an equitable future. The simple action of showing up to events such as rallies, forums, and registering people to vote is a huge advantage to our cause. We have all seen the disparities that we face. We all know that the people in power capitalize in our suffering. In order to create change, we need to let our truths be known, and we need to demand for the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness that we deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny Mendez. Our next youth leader is Emmitt Maxie. She is the Manager of Community Relations and Strategic Development at the State Fair of Texas. But as the president of the Dallas-Fort Worth Urban League of Young Professionals, she says she is able to serve her community. Under her leadership, the youth professionals are dedicated to enabling young African Americans to secure economic self-reliance, parity, power, and civil rights. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Emmitt Maxie.
Good evening. My name is Emmitt Maxie, and I am so honored to be here with you tonight. The historic signing of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 afforded us so many important rights that allow me as a Black immigrant woman to be here with you tonight. And while it did so much, I recognize that there's so much more to be done to make life more equal for Black and brown people. As president of the Dallas-Fort Worth Urban League Young Professionals, an auxiliary of the Houston Area Urban League, I am so grateful for this movement. A movement that has made me more bold when I was timid, has made me more visionary in the midst of complexity, and a staunch advocate for civil rights in the face of injustice. The beautiful part about this movement is that it is an intergenerational movement where our seasoned leaders and our young professionals partner to bring change. There are over 60 young professional chapters across the country, almost in every major city. Find one near you and join us. I say to our leaders who have been paving the way to this moment, make room for young people. Give them space in your workplaces. Give them voice at the forefront of your work. Listen to their ideas and follow them too. To our young people who are paving the way, I say take up space, be bold and unapologetic. Share your brilliant ideas with them. This is how we sustain the movement together. What I know to be true is that young people are relevant and necessary, particularly young Black and brown people. They have always been at the forefront of the movement, leading civil rights, risking their bodies and time to make sure that justice is served. And today is no different. I know that it is the voice of the protesters in the midst of this pandemic that have created urgency for us to respond to. I appreciate that, I honor that, and I believe that we can do more. I believe that we can reimagine our world to be more just and fair and equal. What if our leaders truly reflected our values? What if our world was safe for us to live and sleep and go to the store and find joy without being policed, without whiteness at the center? What if our institutions and our systems and our budgets truly reflected that Black lives do matter? I believe that together, that can be our reality. I believe that you can do it. And I think some of the ways we do that today is by voting. Let's show up at the polls and make our voices heard. Let's make sure that our families and that each of us are counted. Census work is the most important work we can do in this decade. And making sure that those resources that belong in our communities are there is our responsibility. And let's take up space unapologetically. And let's be sure to advocate before the end of the rally tonight for some important women. Breonna Taylor, Mercy Mack, and Vanessa Guillen. Say their names, fight for them. They deserve our justice too. Thank you, and continue to be a part of the Urban League movement.
Thank you so much, Emmitt, and please keep up the great work. If you're watching this program, please use the hashtag UnityRally. Also, you can visit us at unityrally.us. And if you feel empowered, join one of these wonderful organizations, LULAC, the NAACP, or the Urban League of Houston. They would love to have you. Our next guest is the State Representative Victoria Neave. She is an attorney and member of the Texas House of Representatives for District 107 in Dallas. Because of her work in legislative sessions, she has been named one of the best legislators by several news outlets and organizations. The people of her district know she cares. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Victoria Neave.
Hola, hi y'all. Mi nombre es Victoria Neave y soy orgullosamente tejana, abogada y representante estatal. En 1977, mi papá vino a este país sin papeles y con la esperanza del sueño americano, the American Dream. Y solamente 13 años antes de su llegada, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was made a reality that gave my father the opportunity to raise his family in peace, to educate his children, and become a small business owner. Had my dad arrived 13 years earlier, he could be refused service at restaurants, drinking fountains, bathrooms, and other places because of his nationality. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 is the foundation of the fulfillment of the promise that all of us are created equal. And that law did a lot to correct the course of our nation and the course of history. But still, much work has to be done in order to bring restorative justice to our communities. In this country, the rights of people of color have not come to us easily. Cada victoria que hemos ganado has been achieved through voting, rallying, organizing, marching, litigating, and bringing our communities together. There are many fights that we have to win, many victories that still await our community. The fight for a living wage, the fight for quality, debt-free higher education, the fight for accessible health care and child care, the fight for Black lives and for young undocumented Americans. So many victories still await us. So we have to keep trabajando, luchando, and we have to tackle these good fights together. The thing about us today, y'all, is that we get to decide what happens next. Our coalition of young and older, people of all backgrounds and walks of life. Nosotros tenemos el poder de determinar el futuro de nuestro país y hacer decisiones legislativas that are going to give our children the opportunity to create, generational wealth, and overcome oppressive economic, electoral, and social systems for good.
Thank you so much, the Honorable Victoria Neave. And it is so important to vote. Early voting has already kicked off here in Texas, so please go and early vote. Our next guest is State Representative Toni Rose. She is currently serving her 4th term in Texas House Representatives from District 11. She developed a passion for civic engagement at an early age, which mirrors her work in mental health, social justice, and criminal justice. Her legislative focus also includes affordable health care and improving the quality of life for our aging population in undeserved communities. The Honorable Toni Rose.
Greetings, I am State Representative Toni Rose. We have heard the word unity spoken so many times over the years that we sometimes wonder if it really means anything. We call for unity among our churches, our lodges, our fraternities and sororities, and of course, among all our communities, not just communities of color. Yes, it is easy to get discouraged, to think that we will never get the kind of unity needed to make lasting systemic change. But I am here today to say that we don't have time to get discouraged, dejected, nor depressed. All you have to do is look around, turn on the TV, or go online for all the reasons why we must come together. And while we need more unity, the truth is that we have more unity than we sometimes realize. The very fact that we are all here today, elected and appointed officials, community leaders, educators, business and civic leaders, demonstrate the power of unity. The truth is that none of us got here on our own. We are all standing on the shoulders of people who managed to make progress through unity. They came together, organized, and refused to surrender. Did they accomplish everything they set out to do? Of course not. Did they accomplish more than anyone thought possible? Absolutely. And without a doubt, there are vitally important policies we must work on. I and my fellow colleagues in the Texas Legislative Black Caucus have committed ourselves as never before to fight on issues like reforming our criminal justice system, expanding our healthcare system, and the inadequate resources put towards crucial human needs like education and housing. But the more basic thing that we all can do to help in every one of these areas is to commit ourselves to exercising our basic democratic rights. That obviously includes the right and responsibility to vote, but it's not just that. It includes pulling all the levers of democracy. It means attending meetings and hearings and held by governmental bodies and making your voices heard. It includes serving on juries and serving on boards and commissions that actually influence policy and influence where dollars go. It includes writing letters, making phone calls, and sending emails to decision makers. I know this sounds like a lot, and it is, but the truth is that we have a successful model for getting this done. And all it takes is just looking back at our history. We have repeatedly dreamed the unthinkable, defeated the unbeatable, and done the impossible. How did we do it? We did it by faith and work. We did it then, and we could do it again.
Thank you, Representative Toni Rose. And last but not least, our last speaker for the evening is T.D. Jakes. He is a visionary leader, faithful pastor, charismatic influencer, best-selling author, and award-winning filmmaker. Once said, in order to help lead people to their destiny, you have to meet people where they are. It is this honest approach that allows him to reach millions, and why he is called on today to comfort our community. I am honored to present Pastor T.D. Jakes of the Potter's House.
Hello, family. What a great honor and a great privilege it is that I was invited to lend my voice to the chorus of all of you who have come together to celebrate the Unity Rally Against Racism. I would feel left out and forsaken if I were not included in this, because it is so near and dear to my heart, and to my parents from Alabama and Mississippi respectively understood so well the fight that we underwent in order to attain the values and the principles that are encapsulated in the voters' right. I want to encourage you, and I want to thank you, and I want to acknowledge and appreciate the galvanizing of some of the strongest institutions that have represented the underserved and fought many a battle down through the years. The presence and the support of the NAACP is very, very important. And when you combine that with the Urban League of Houston and LULAC, I thought it was incumbent upon me to get behind and support and encourage in every way possible this initiative and this endeavor, particularly at a time like this. I cannot go to sleep without seeing George Floyd's face staring back at me. It becomes the embodiment of the oppression of a people that can't breathe and have not been able to breathe for years. It becomes a symbol of the trickery and the injustice that has perpetuated itself in our historicity, often behind closed doors, but still powerful nonetheless. Backroom deals, plea bargaining, all sorts of things that have landed our boys in jail at disproportionate rates, and our women. It is very, very important that we understand that it is not just George Floyd that cannot breathe. It is every black and brown American that lives in this country, that lives in terror of flashing blue lights. They can't get justice in courtrooms. They can't be heard in boardrooms. It lives in the fact that the Fortune 500 companies only have a handful of black CEOs, that we are underrepresented in the upper echelon, and that we are disregarded in the lower aspects of our community. And it lives in the fact that we are disproportionately likely to be in poverty, disproportionately likely to have poor health services provided to us. It lives in the fact that even COVID-19 knows that we are easy prey because of the injustices of our society. So the time is now. But I must warn you, my brothers and sisters, I have noticed in the 63 years of my living that the attention span of America is quite brief. Thanks to all the marchers, thanks to all the protesters, thanks to all the people who lifted their voice and posted and retweeted pictures until they got the attention of the press and the media and the world. Thanks to all the people around the world who mirrored and echoed our disdain at the atrocities of mistreatment. It resonated, it struck a nerve, it hit a chord, and the whole world has turned its head to hear what we have to say. Our message must become clear. Not just our marching, but our message must become clear. The time is now. We want specific changes. We want changes that cannot be reversed. We want changes that cannot be ignored. We want justice. And that means we are looking for candidates, not candidates looking for us. We ought to try them in the furnace of our own minds to determine whether they are really for us. We must refuse to pledge allegiance to a party that does not pledge allegiance to us. I am not looking for a party to vote for. I'm looking for a party who's voting for me, who's interested in me, who's interested in my children, who's interested in your children. And we must try them all at the fire to see, and let us not stop at the changes that we need in the federal government. And let's go deeper down to the local levels, because it is on the local levels where we are also facing many, many trials and atrocities that must be eradicated. It is there that we must become more scrutinizing in how we vote for who is going to be the district attorney and who is going to be prosecuting attorney and who is going to be chief of police. And it is there that we must be more scrutinizing. I am not excusing the federal government. There is much that can be done. There's much that can be done in Congress. There's much that can be done by the president. We must all do better. We must get down into the trenches and examine the police unions, sticking their finger on the scales when one of the police officers come to trial. We must get down into the trenches of understanding how the system works and break the back of injustice in this country once and for all. We don't have long. It's just a short moment. And yet, inbred in the fabric of the way we think is a feeling of inferiority, that we can't make a difference, that we can't be heard, that it won't work, that it can't happen. Away with the negativities. It absolutely can work. History proves that you don't have to be the majority to have great impact. History proves that you can restore the right for women to vote through a handful of women. The LGBTQ proves that you don't have to be a massive amount of people in order to have a massive impact or change. Why is it that we as Black and brown people think that we can't make a difference? You can make a difference, you will make a difference, and you must make a difference. But we'll only do it if we stop all of our internal bickering, fighting with one another, tearing one another down, criticizing one another, and stand together as a united front so that all of us can reap the benefits of a more perfect union. I want to challenge you around the family table, talking with your friends, interacting with people, and ask them one question: did you vote? I don't want to hear the vehemence of your complaint if I cannot see the imprint of your vote. And I challenge you with all diligence, everybody who's got a vehicle, everybody who's got a means of getting somebody out who doesn't have a means to get out, to make sure that our voice is heard. All 40 million of us. If all 40 million of us go out and vote, we will turn this nation around. If all 40 million of us educate ourselves as to the policies and the background practices of the candidates, rather than just marking a block because we don't know who they are, if all 40 million of us, for this one time, educate ourselves and read a little bit about who will make the most difference for us, we can change it. Then the marching was for a purpose. Then the ridicule was for a purpose. Then the controversy was for a purpose. But we cannot let all of those who risk their lives by marching in the middle of a pandemic, that are some of which are in the hospital right now, because they risk their lives for a dream. We cannot let that be wasted. So I encourage you today. I implore you, I beseech you today, let's make this one count. I am Bishop T.D. Jakes. I'm the senior pastor of the Potter's House. I'm the CEO of T.D. Jakes Enterprises. I am the CEO of T.D. Jakes Realty Company. I'm the CEO of T.D. Jakes Foundation. And all of our auxiliaries, our departments, and our organizations are committed to the cause. We are united. Unite with us. Together we stand. Divided we fall. Falling is not an option. Thank you for being a part of this rally. Thank you for allowing me to contribute to the complexities of this conversation. And most of all, I thank you for your vote. I'll see you in November. You can count on it.
Thank you so much, Bishop T.D. Jakes, for that powerful message. Amazing, absolutely amazing. We hope you've enjoyed this program and you leave empowered and ready to change the world. Please don't forget to go vote, get registered to vote, and stay home so we can flatten this curve. And share with your friends and family, #UnityRally, and visit us at unityrally.us and join the organizations. Be the change that you want to see. You can join the LULAC, the NAACP, and the Urban League of Houston. Thank you all for watching. I'm Jazze Maxie.